Financial risk refers to a company's ability to manage its debt and financial leverage. To evaluate the financial risk, we consider accounting policy of the company, financial policy and governance, cash flow adequacy, capital structure, and liquidity. Free cash flows, debt to capital ratio, and interest cover ratio are all common financial indicators credit analysts rely upon to determine a borrower's risk of default in the credit process. Free cash flow tells a bank exactly how much cash is available for a company to repay its debt after all necessary expenses are made. The calculation for free cash flow is EBITDA minus interest minus taxes to come to EBIT plus minus changes in working capital plus minus other operational liabilities and minus capital expenditure. Here's an example in Excel spreadsheet where we can calculate free cash flow. We already are given EBITDA, interest, taxes, changes in working capital, and CapEx. All I need to do is sum all the items above because everything that's needed to be subtracted is already negative. I'm going to use alt equals to sum it up, and my free cash flow would be 1,142. We also use free cash flow calculation when building DCF models. So you will get to that concept when get to financial modeling videos. Free cash flows near zero or negative could indicate high default risk. It is important to note in the above formula that interest is subtracted from EBITDA. This is different from unlevered free cash flows and provides more detail into how credit rating agencies review cash flows. Other financial ratios that credit analysts rely upon to determine a borrower's risk of default in the credit process are debt to capital ratio. The debt to capital ratio shows a company's debt as a percentage of its total capital. A higher debt to capital ratio indicates higher default risk. And interest coverage ratio. The interest coverage ratio analyzes the relationship between a company's earnings and its interest obligations. It is calculated by dividing a company's EBIT by its interest expenses for the period. Let's take a look into examples to calculate debt to capital ratio and interest coverage ratio here. So company A and company B have equity of 40 and 60 respectively, and debt of 60 and 40. My capital for both companies, which is equity plus debt, will be alt equals shift right arrow control R to fill the formula. So for both companies, capital would be 100, but debt to capital ratio would be different. For the company A, debt divided by capital, debt to capital ratio would be 60%, and for the company B, debt divided by capital would be 40%. To calculate interest coverage ratio, I will take EBIT and interest from the exercise above. So my EBIT will be a sum of EBITDA, interest and taxes, as interest and taxes are negative here for me. So it will be 2,255. My interest I will find in the cell C6 above, and make sure to reverse the sign because here I want to see just the value in a positive manner to calculate interest coverage ratio. My interest coverage ratio will be EBIT divided by interest, which is 6.3. The higher the interest coverage ratio, the lower is the company's default risk. An interest coverage ratio of 1.5 or below raises doubts about the company's ability to fulfill its interest obligations. In the example above, the interest coverage ratio is 6.3, which is very comfortable. Business and financial risk combined help the rating agencies to come up with an accurate credit rating for the companies.